So today we're going to be talking about scams, but I'm not going to be actually talking about the solutions that we are doing in our company, but we will be talking about how scam problem is becoming so important and why it's so different than different other types of cybercrime that we have been talking about over the last 40 years. So because as a company, we are starting to see that scams in particular can actually target anyone, and anyone can fall victim to scams. And we have to, and in general, it's always some form of shame is associated with scams. While for other cyber crime, when we were getting viruses and so on, it was just like a technical vulnerability, so we had no control over it. But when scams happen, we think that there's something wrong about us. And that's why the shame is associated with it. But at the same time, it can happen to everyone. And we're kind of, as a company, trying to make it so normal that people actually can try to fight against scams together, because community is really, really important in the case of scams. So consumer cyber safety is evolving and accelerating from 3 pillars. So from one aspect, the way we're interacting with the world is really changing, and is actually even saying that it's changing maybe could be the past. Now it has already changed. We're doing everything online right now. On the other hand, there are the attackers and the threat actors that are leveraging these changes, and they're trying to figure out a way to exploit this and somehow monetize from it. So that's why we have to look into the problem. The problem is getting even more challenging and very interesting for us, and we have to figure out a way to solve the problem. So what is it making scams so much more different than other types of cybercrime out there? So in reality, what is happening with scams is that they don't exploit a vulnerability in a program or in an app or in a system. So it might not actually involve almost any technical in the sense of like a computer science related technical detail, but it is actually an exploitation of the human element, how we are thinking, how we are, the features that are actually making us human are targeted by scammers. And right now, because the way we're using internet has changed so much, we are constantly leaving some traces about ourselves. And even if you as a person might be using a security product, so your devices, your servers, the systems that you're using might be protected, it's very difficult to ensure that the devices of let's say the doctor is actually as secure. So you might go to the doctor office and leave some data out there, and the actual attackers might be compromising that and use it against you. Similarly, online shopping and everything that we're doing online in making it much more complex, and they have so much more data about you that they can actually make scams that are so much personalized, and that's why much more successful. So when you look into the data over the last 5 to 6 years, we have seen a dramatic increase in the number of scams happening online and the amount of money that is lost to scams. So there are, in the Europe, we don't have like an organization that is constantly reporting how much is lost for scams, how many scam types are out there, but FTC from the US have been focusing on this problem and releasing some reports every year. And last year, what we have seen is that only in the US, $12.5 billion were lost to scams. And this is a great underestimation of the real problem, because this will be only calculated from people that reported scams to FTC. And as I mentioned, as in reality, there is so much shame associated to scams. Typically, people actually don't report those problems. So like the real numbers are so much bigger than that. And indeed, last year, there were a couple of articles that came out that investigated the pig butchering scams, and they estimated around 80 billion globally lost to this particular scam type only. And also in Gen, when we look into our detections, threat detection data, we are seeing that over around 80% of our detections correspond to scams. And while in the past, this was completely the other way around. So only 20% of our threats detections actually correspond to traditional cybercrime. So we recently have become a partner to the Global Scam Alliance, which is putting a great deal of effort to try to fight against scams. So there are a lot of big companies that are becoming part of this organization to try to fight against scams together. Because scam is such a complex system, and also the scammers can jump from one platform to the other. And when you look into the problem only, let's say, if started in a meta platform, you might not actually detect the scam, but if it goes to another platform, you might be able to start getting more data. So in this organization last year estimated the total number of dollars lost to scams to be 1 trillion. So which is like much, much, much bigger than what FTC is reporting. Of course, these numbers are global. And typically, the countries that are the most impacted by scams are those that are economically doing better, and the countries actually that are typically doing worse are the source of scams. So it's also kind of showing that like economic inequality is creating those scams, and which is making the scam types to be even more dangerous and impactful. So scams are on top of mind, the threat, mind threat for the public. Over the last 10 to 15 years, slowly and slowly, people start thinking that cybersecurity is not important and needed for them anymore. However, with the scams being so impactful and the fact that they're resulting in a lot of monetary loss, people start talking about it. Online, there are a lot of conversations about scams, and people are accepting that this is an everyday threat. And for many of us, we have almost fell to a scam, or many of us actually fell to scam. So recently, whenever I talk to anyone around me, they would come up with a story about these very personalized deepfake scams, from shopping scams to all kinds of scams out there. So this is something that is really becoming really on top of the mind. As I mentioned, scams invoke significant emotion and is stressing the mental health. When we look and analyze the conversations online, we have seen that a big percentage of them included an anger. And in particular, as I said, because due to this economic inequality in the world, when the scammers, let's say, many times they come from Philippines, they will come from African countries, and when you are talking with those victims and the scammers, the stories are really, really sometimes very deep and sad. The scammer would say, "I don't care if you die," to a kid that is 14 years old. They have so much anger, also the scammers, that the other person in Europe is having such a comfortable life while he's struggling with food. So that's why, of course, this problem, as we said, is not something so simple as just solving and detecting and arresting people. So it also creates the kind of like deeper problems to be discussed. Again, embarrassment and shame is really one of the common themes among scam victims. And many of them, because they don't talk about it, when you get scammed, you kind of think that this is due to something that is wrong with you. And that's something that we have to talk about and normalize so people actually can know how to address them. And when the information is spread out there, you create more awareness, so the problem is starting to be solved. So in one of the previous slides, I actually had a little corner, a statistics that was showing some form of decline in number of scams, and this is Australia. Australia has put a lot of effort on scams over the last 5 years, and is actually all this effort is paying off. The last 2 years, while globally we're seeing a huge increase, we're actually observing the other way around in Australia. So it's kind of showing us that we might have a solution to it. Again, we also did like a little study with the scam victims, and we checked their brain signals. And when we were talking about the story, what happened before versus during and after, we could see like how much emotional impact there is on the brain, and the fact that psychological well-being of people never went back to normal. So which also shows that recovery for scams is not only about financial recovery, but it could also require some emotional support. And in our company, we're integrating emotional support services to our anti-scam solutions. Yeah, so this is like a very quick introduction of what we are dealing with in our company. I hope it was interesting, and thank you so much.